You know, sometimes in life, you find yourself thinking about somebody constantly. I'm talking about morning, noon, and night. They just pop up in your head, like your favorite song that you didn't even play, but it's stuck there anyway. You can be at work, driving, watching TV, or even trying to sleep, and suddenly they're right there in your mind. And here's the crazy part. You haven't even talked to them. No texts, no calls, no nothing. But still, they're living rent free in your head. Now let me tell you something. When that happens, it's not by accident. That's not just some random coincidence. See, human connections go deeper than just words. Communication isn't always about what's said out loud. Sometimes the strongest form of connection is silent. When you think about someone constantly, without even hearing from them, it means their presence has touched something in you. Doesn't need constant reminders to stay alive. That's a sign that they've become part of your emotional space. And that's powerful. Sometimes we underestimate what the mind and heart can do. You can feel someone's energy without being in the same room. You can be connected without sending a single message. That's because real bonds don't always need daily updates. They live in your thoughts and your feelings. And if someone keeps showing up in your mind, even when life has put miles or silence between you, that means they've got a special place in your story. But here's the thing. You've got to ask yourself why they're in your mind so much. Is it because you miss them? Is it because they left an impact you can't shake off? Or is it because you never got closure and your mind is still trying to find answers? See, sometimes the constant thinking is a sign of love, but other times it's a sign of unfinished business. And if it's unfinished business, you need to be honest with yourself about whether it's worth holding on or worth letting go. Now, I'm not saying you've got to rush and call them right away, but I am saying you've got to pay attention to what your mind is telling you. If thinking about them brings you peace, joy, and motivation, then maybe they're meant to stay in your life in some way. But if thinking about them keeps you stuck, keeps you hurting, keeps you questioning your worth, then maybe it's time to make room in your mind for something or someone healthier. Life is too short to let someone's memory take up all your mental space without them putting in the effort to be in your reality. And sometimes the reason they're in your mind so much is because you've put them on a pedestal. You've made them bigger in your thoughts than they are in real life. You've got to be careful with that, because when you feed a thought too much, it can turn into an obsession, and obsession isn't love. It's a cage. So remember this. If they're always on your mind without communication, it means they've made an impression on your soul. But you've got to decide if that impression is helping you grow or holding you back. Some people are meant to be lessons, and some are meant to be blessings. Your job is to figure out which one they are, and then act accordingly. Because at the end of the day, the people who truly belong in your life won't just live in your thoughts. They'll show up in your life, speak into your days, and walk beside you. And until that happens, don't lose yourself in the memory of someone who isn't showing up for you in the present. Thoughts are powerful, but actions will always tell the real story. When you find yourself thinking about someone constantly without exchanging a single word, it's proof that connections go far deeper than we often realize. Communication isn't limited to texts, calls, or face-to-face conversations. Sometimes the most powerful form of connection is the one you can't see or hear, but you can feel. There are moments in life when a person's presence lingers in your heart long after their physical presence has faded. It's not about habit, it's about impact. They've left an imprint so strong that your mind keeps revisiting them, almost as if your thoughts are drawn back to a source of comfort, intrigue, or emotional significance. This silent connection happens because humans are wired to remember and hold on to the things that matter to them. It's not about how many words have been exchanged, but about how deeply someone has touched your emotions. A single encounter, a shared laugh, a supportive gesture, or even a moment of vulnerability can anchor someone in your thoughts in ways daily conversations never could. You could go weeks, months, even years without speaking, but they remain etched in your internal world. That's because real bonds are built on shared experiences, emotions, and the way someone makes you feel. And feelings have a longer shelf life than words. When someone occupies your thoughts without ongoing communication, it's a reminder that connection is more than just an exchange of information. It's about resonance, the way two souls align, even in silence. Sometimes you can feel someone's presence like an invisible thread that stretches between you, no matter the distance. This doesn't require effort from either side. It simply exists because the connection was genuine at its core. You might be working, running errands, or even laughing with others, and suddenly their memory or energy flashes in your mind. That's not randomness. That's your heart holding on to something meaningful. In a world that constantly equates communication with closeness, it's easy to overlook the truth that some of the most significant relationships aren't built on constant contact. You can be deeply connected to someone without speaking to them every day or even every year, because the bond doesn't fade with silence. Life may put space between you, circumstances may change, but the connection remains untouched by time. This is why people can reconnect after years apart and feel like no time has passed at all. The unspoken bond was never broken, only resting quietly in the background. However, it's important to understand that such connections aren't always meant to lead to action. Just because someone is always in your mind doesn't necessarily mean you need to reach out or try to rekindle the relationship. Sometimes they are simply part of the fabric of your life story. A chapter that shaped you, a lesson that guided you, or a reminder of who you were in a certain moment in time. The beauty of this silent bond is that it doesn't demand anything. It simply exists. There's also a comfort in knowing that you can care for someone without the need for constant validation or reassurance through communication. In a way, it's a purer form of connection because it's not driven by convenience or routine. It's driven by genuine emotional presence. You think of them because they matter to you, not because they just texted you or tagged you online. That level of connection shows the depth of human attachment, and it's rare in today's fast-paced, surface-level interactions. So, when you notice someone always in your thoughts without communication, take a moment to appreciate what that means. It's a sign of a meaningful bond that transcends time, space, and even words. It's proof that the human heart has a memory stronger than the mind, and that true connection is not measured by how often you speak, but by how deeply you feel. It's not always about holding on. Sometimes it's just about honoring the fact that they were, and perhaps still are, a part of you in ways you can't fully explain. And that's the kind of connection that reminds us of the beauty and mystery of relationships, the ones that speak in silence and live in our hearts, even when life keeps us apart. When someone is always in your thoughts, it's natural to assume it must be because of love or deep affection. But the truth is, it can also mean something very different: unfinished business. Our minds have a way of holding on to situations that were never fully resolved. Whether that's a relationship that ended without closure, words left unsaid, or feelings that were never expressed. The human brain doesn't like loose ends, and so it keeps circling back to those moments or people, trying to piece together answers that were never given. This is why someone can hang in your mind, even when you're not actively trying to think about them. Sometimes it really is love, that genuine, deep connection that made you feel seen, valued, and understood. Love doesn't always fade just because communication stops. A strong emotional attachment can keep a person alive in your thoughts for years because the memories bring warmth and comfort. You think about the way they made you laugh, the way they supported you, or the way they just understood you without explanation. When love is the reason, your thoughts often feel tender, hopeful, and filled with gratitude, even if there's a tinge of longing. But there's another side to it. When it's unfinished business, your thoughts feel different. They're more restless, unsettled, and sometimes even heavy. You might find yourself replaying the last conversation over and over, wondering what you could have done differently, or wishing you had the chance to explain your side. You might even create imaginary scenarios in your head where you finally get the answers you've been waiting for. In these cases, the person isn't just in your mind because you miss them. They're there because a part of you is still searching for resolution. The tricky part is learning to tell the difference between the two. Love leaves you with warmth and inspiration, even in absence, while unfinished business often leaves you feeling stuck and emotionally drained. One helps you grow. The other keeps you circling the same mental loop. If you don't take the time to figure out which one it is, you might spend years thinking about someone for the wrong reason, believing it's love when it's really an unhealed wound. Recognizing the reason behind your constant thoughts is important because it shapes what you do next. If it's love, maybe it's worth cherishing silently, or maybe it's worth reaching out when the time feels right. If it's unfinished business, maybe it's time to find closure on your own without waiting for them to provide it. Closure doesn't always come from the other person. Sometimes it comes from deciding you no longer need answers to move forward. There is also the danger of romanticizing someone simply because they're out of reach. When communication stops, your mind can fill in the gaps with idealized memories, making them seem more perfect than they ever were in reality. This is why being honest with yourself is crucial. Are you thinking about who they truly are, or are you thinking about who you wanted them to be? Distinguishing between the two can free you from false attachments and help you see the situation for what it really is. Ultimately, whether it's love or unfinished business, the constant presence of someone in your mind is a signal worth paying attention to. It's your heart and mind trying to tell you something, either to hold on to a feeling that adds value to your life or to address something that's been weighing you down. The key is to stop ignoring the why behind your thoughts. Once you understand it, you can decide whether this person is meant to stay in your heart or be released from it. Because if you don't figure it out, you'll stay in a cycle of wondering. And life's too short to live in a loop when you could be moving forward. Not every thought we have about someone is good for us, and just because they're always in our mind doesn't mean it's a sign to keep holding on. Sometimes constant thoughts can turn from something sweet into something harmful without us even realizing it. When thinking about a person begins to weigh you down, drain your energy, or stop you from living fully in the present, It's a sign that the connection in your mind may no longer be healthy. This is where self-awareness becomes so important, because you need to be able to step back and ask yourself whether these thoughts are lifting you up or keeping you stuck. It's easy to mistake familiarity for comfort, but just because you've gotten used to thinking about someone all the time doesn't mean it's good for you. If the thoughts bring sadness, anger, or feelings of inadequacy, that's your mind telling you something's wrong. Unhealthy patterns can form when you replay the same memories over and over, especially the painful ones, because the brain begins to relive the emotions as if they're happening in real time. This keeps you trapped in the past, unable to fully enjoy the present or create a better future. Constant thinking can also become a way of avoiding reality. You might find yourself idealizing the person or the relationship, building up an image of them that's more fantasy than fact. When this happens, you're not actually attached to the person as they truly are. You're attached to the version of them you've created in your mind. That's dangerous because no real life connection can live up to that. Imagine perfection, and when reality doesn't match your mental picture, it can lead to disappointment and hurt all over again. One of the most telling signs that your thoughts are no longer healthy is when they start affecting your daily life. Maybe you struggle to focus on work, can't be fully present with friends and family, or avoid new opportunities because your mind is still locked on someone from your past. This mental preoccupation can rob you of joy, productivity, and peace. And the longer it continues, the more it reinforces the emotional hold that person has over you, even without any actual contact. Breaking free from unhealthy thoughts doesn't always mean forgetting the person entirely. Sometimes it's about changing the way you think about them. Instead of focusing on what could have been, you can shift your perspective to what the experience taught you, how it helped you grow, or what it revealed about your own needs and boundaries. This transformation turns the connection from something that holds you back into something that propels you forward. It's also important to create mental space for new experiences and relationships. If your mind is constantly occupied with one person, there's little room left for new people to come in and make an impact. Letting go, or at least loosening the grip those thoughts have on you, opens the door for healthier, more reciprocal connections. Ones where communication and action match the energy you're giving. At the end of the day, thoughts are powerful, but they're not always truthful. Your mind can cling to something because it's familiar, not because it's good for you. Recognizing when constant thinking has crossed the line from love or longing into obsession or self-sabotage is crucial. The goal is to protect your mental and emotional health Because no matter how strong a connection once was, nothing is worth losing your peace over. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is gently release those thoughts and remind yourself that you deserve relationships that live in both your mind and your reality in a way that makes you feel whole, not drained. No matter how much someone stays in your thoughts, the truth is that actions will always reveal more than imagination or memory ever could. You can think about a person every single day, replay conversations, and feel a deep emotional pull toward them. But if they are not showing up in your life through their actions, that says everything you need to know. Real relationships, whether romantic, friendly, or even family-based, require more than silent feelings. They require consistent effort and presence. Thoughts can create a sense of closeness, but they can't replace the reality of someone being there for you when it matters most. It's easy to get caught up in the comfort of thinking about someone and convincing yourself that the connection is still strong. But in reality, a relationship exists in the space between two people, not just in one person's mind. If you're doing all the emotional heavy lifting, while the other person isn't contributing time, care, or communication, then what you have is a memory, not an active relationship. Actions are what prove love, loyalty, and intention. Words can be nice, thoughts can be comforting, but actions are the evidence that someone values you enough to show up. When someone truly belongs in your life, they don't just occupy your thoughts. They make the effort to be present. They call, they check in, they find ways to spend time with you, and they invest in the relationship. They don't leave you wondering if you matter, because their behavior makes it clear. And while life can get busy, the people who genuinely care will still find ways to keep the connection alive. Effort doesn't have to be grand or constant, but it should be consistent enough that you feel supported and valued. Relying on thoughts alone can be dangerous because it can lead you to overvalue someone's place in your life based solely on how much you think about them, rather than on how much they actually participate in it. You can end up holding on to someone emotionally long after they've stopped being part of your reality. This can create a one-sided attachment where you're investing energy into a relationship that only exists in your head. Over time, that can lead to frustration, loneliness, and a sense of rejection that comes from expecting more than the other person is willing to give. That's why it's so important to measure a connection, not just by how you feel, but by what's happening in the real world. Feelings are internal, actions are external. When the two align, you have a healthy and mutual relationship. When they don't, it's a sign to reassess. If someone truly values you, you won't have to chase them in your thoughts or wonder if they care. They'll make it known through their actions. And if their actions show distance, disinterest, or inconsistency, then the healthiest choice you can make is to adjust your expectations accordingly. This doesn't mean you have to stop caring or erase the person from your memory, but it does mean you should protect your emotional well-being by focusing on relationships that are active and balanced. Thinking about someone can be beautiful, but love, respect, and trust are built in the day-to-day actions that show commitment. Your time and mental energy are precious, and they deserve to be invested in people who meet you halfway. In the end, actions are the truest form of communication. Someone can say they miss you, think about you, or care for you, but if their behavior doesn't reflect those words, then the words are empty. And even if they never say anything at all, their consistent, genuine effort would always speak louder than anything else. If a person truly belongs in your life, you won't just find them in your mind. You'll see them in your life, standing beside you, proving through what they do that you matter.